TF2 is a game that holds a very special place in my heart. I am not alone in my opinion that it is one of the best multiplayer FPS in history. I share it with thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of people. Everyone who loves this game can have a different reason to. Like me, you can adore it for its timeless gameplay and incredible visual style. Like others, you might enjoy the all-time free player expression or open community. There are countless reasons as to why some players stayed with this game for almost 20 years. These aforementioned points are the most popular answers you can expect to encounter, however, and rightfully so. TF2 is known mostly by them specifically. But do you know what else connects these points other than their popularity? It's how they're being neglected and ruined. By what? Well, let's say I've made a list. A list consisting of all things touched most by the struggles the game faces. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. If I were to ask you, what's a game's most important factor, your answer would probably vary drastically depending on which game you might have thought of. If you play more combat-based games like, let's say, Ultra Kill or Silksong, you'd say gameplay. But if you're a consumer of more story-based games like Deltarune or Omori, the story would likely come to mind first. I've heard tens of various answers over the years, some more or less popular than the others, but let me tell you the truth. If you hear one of these answers, then you know that the person that gave it has never truly suffered from a game's lack of functionality, the very base of the pyramid of needs for a video game. Yes, it's that simple. For a game to be at least enjoyable, it needs to work in the first place. We do not live in a perfect world, where gameplay is a shooter scream and butter, because many games today struggle with the very base of the dish before the toppings can truly be enjoyed. Team Fortress 2 is that times 100. But first, let's go back in time to the year of 2016. Many things happened that year, but, of course, most importantly, it was the first year of TF2's new casual matchmaking system, the one still in use today, although a bit different from the on-release format. It was the moment the game lost its simple and reliable quick play in favor of a Call of Duty SBMM purgatory wannabe. In fact, you might not know this, but this system is so casual that it relies on skill ratings. Yeah, same skill ratings as in a competitive game. Well, this doesn't sound particularly bad. New players should in theory be met with lower skill servers, and 10,000-hour tryhards should be faced against each other more consistently, you might say, not knowing what problems a skill-based matchmaking creates. Because the system started relying heavily on skill ratings as a key condition to key the players into a match, the games could no longer run on 45-minute map timers, instead most of the time going for a best-of-2 win condition. After one team wins those 2 rounds, the match is over. This not only makes the game less about having fun and more about winning and losing, but also sacrifices many previous freedoms, like freely changing teams, because if the main point of a match is to win, then the game shouldn't let the player just swap to the leading team. Tough news, but everybody above the age of 12 and IQ of 100 doesn't really give a fuck about winning and losing in TF2. People would much rather care about having pure unadulterated fun and stay in the server as long as they'd want. This game wasn't built for SBMM. That's why casual sucks in my opinion. But why is casual as it is? The update that has introduced it, Meet Your Match, was a failed attempt on modernizing the game, and the very idea for such changes stems from the fear of a new at the time game, Overwatch, stealing players from Team Fortress 2. Good job, Valve. It is also almost confirmed to have been rushed and even conceptualized by the TF2 devs to get a bonus. If you didn't know this, Valve employees are suspected to receive a large monetary bonus when completing large-scale updates on Sama, because of the natural player traction such update pulls. So, a system that conflicts so much with TF2's original gameplay premise should be put through some changes. Some drastic ones at that. Firstly, remove skill-based matchmaking, which removes player freedoms and unneededly complicates the queuing process. Secondly, change the pre-round timer to 30 seconds flat. 3 player slots immediately after the player has disconnected from the server, to not get in the way of the game's auto-balance mechanics. Fourthly, bring back 45-minute map timers, scramble, and auto-scramble. And, most importantly, return to the model of quick play with slight adjustments. What would those adjustments be? Make the players able to nominate maps into a general map vote, max 4 maps in vote, instead of a simple map vote for a single map. Keep an option to extend the current map, and add an option to wreck the vote. Valve official servers only run maps added in and before 2017. Everything after the Jungle Inferno update will be available in community servers only. New maps are added to the rotation of Valve servers only for their event's duration, later disappearing into community servers. Add a setting making the player choose the minimum amount of players the server needs to have to be considered for connecting to. And lastly, make the player able to queue for multiple game modes at once. So, these are my changes. If you think I've missed something or disagree with my proposed fixes, then feel free to let me know in the comments. The second thing, other than the casual matchmaking system, that negatively impacts the game's functionality is the update cycle. Most importantly, the maps added every year. There are 126 maps in the current vanilla rotation, with more being added every year. That is a lot, not only to populate, which is a whole another problem I won't even get into, but also load and manage. TF2 is already a poor old game, suffering from outdated optimization, but with every update, the game's performance on slower machines will only get worse. Of course, not even mentioning how badly optimized some of these maps are themselves. Oh, and by the way, there are 60 extra Scream Fortress maps added to the rotation every year, so I guess here is an answer as to why casual performs worse than a gay swinger at an HIV test every time Halloween comes around. This isn't sustainable in the slightest and simply shows how incompatible this game is with its own self. We can either have a shitty dysfunctional matchmaking system or a cancerous update cycle. Having both is actively killing this game. In this many maps, a system like casual that actively tries to populate them all is bound to struggle. I don't want to fearmonger any of you, but if something doesn't change in the next 2 or 3 years, then I fear that the game will no longer be playable, and we know how good Valve deals with such game-breaking issues. I hear many people say quick play or death, but I don't think they mean theirs, they mean the game's, and they're right. A game's art style is a game's soul, its character, its legacy. For me personally, the visuals are nearly as important as the gameplay. I can often excuse a disappointing lack of interesting or fair mechanics if a fight has enough style.
It's me.
But, and I'm sorry for going off topic, a sensoric overload of a musical theme, for example, can honestly be enough to destroy the experience of a whole boss. Saying that, Team Fortress 2 absolutely delivers with its style, and is one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. Inspired by the iconic works of masterclass artists Norman Rockwell and his contemporary J.C. Leyendecker, it recreates the 50s and 60s Americana with an impressionistic spin. This not only creates a game that, despite being lawfully legal to drive, still amazes with its beauty, but is first and foremost readable and respects the player's eye. TF2 does not use brightly colored outlines, doesn't scream at you to get your attention. It uses gradients, contrasting colors, just like a painting guides you towards the centerpiece of detail. Do you know these photos of Peter Griffin reduced to his primary colors, and how he's still recognizable despite the exclusion of all detail? Well, this is applicable to TF2 as well. Here, you can see I placed such colored blocks representing 3 random mercenaries. If you wish, you may guess which ones they are. I'll give you 5 seconds. See? The models of the mercs use not only shapes to help you distinguish the class, but also colors, which at longer range can be just as important, if not more. That design choice complements well with how the maps were designed. They were designed to not only look good, but also accommodate the exact color and shape recognition. Look at the granary, for example. You'll struggle to find any cluttered textures, any bright colors. That is to create the aforementioned contrast and guide your eye towards what is important for the objective, and of course, to stay alive. That is why I think the great visual and audio clarity of TF2 should be preserved. Or rather, should have been. Let's go slowly and start out with maps. In TF2's lore, the mercs fight on New Mexican turf for 2 companies that own most of Earth's capital in order for these employers to achieve world domination. The maps are supposed to be disguised as just regular facilities in the middle of nowhere that secretly harbor, for example, weapons of mass destruction. Now, let's check out a payload map added just 2 years ago. Embargo changes both TF2's lore, and even the announcer takes place in a South American city, has bright, saturated colors that not only look kinda ugly, but also get rid of all visual clarity, has awfully detailed textures and is a chore to play.
Jerona!
Also, stylistically, we went from a Saturday evening post-Americana painting to Thomas Kincaid. I know there were maps before that shared this map's scenes, but they didn't do it to this extent. A good example for such map is Lazarus, that yes, has a jungle theme unfitting of TF2, but its stylization is very reminiscent of Hydro, a classic old TF2 map. That alone settles the map in-game. Lazarus also doesn't actively rape your eyeballs. Well, what's the problem? It's a cool idea. The game is evolving from its original mold. I came here for TF2, not Brazilian Splatoon.
Jerona!
Oh, you hate this map?
Sorry, keep
That's
you
a
waiting.
shame. I think if you hate this map, that's perfectly fine. That's the perk of having fucking like 100 maps in the game. You can play whatever you want.
Here I come, San Francisco!
Just Just because nobody plays maps like Aquarius doesn't mean it doesn't lower TF2's standards. And while we're talking about lowering the game's standards, then let's talk about the cosmetics. They are miles worse than the maps, which can theoretically still be somewhat ignored. Again, let's start slowly. What are the requirements a TF2 cosmetic has to meet to be considered a good and fitting one? Picture a pyramid. At the top is fitting the game's stylization. TF2's style isn't cartoony, it's impressionistic. That's why cosmetics like these simply don't fit. They look like Fortnite skins. Also, no bright colors, please. Below it, there is fitting TF2's themes. War, crime and spy-based cosmetics fit very well, but Christmas and Halloween themed? Not so much. There is also the reason why reference cosmetics only work well when the themes of the referenced media are at least somewhat similar. Otherwise, they stand out like a sore thumb. I don't want to be super strict here though. We can have more outlandish or tacky cosmetics if people like them, but they should at least try to blend in. And at the very base of the pyramid, there is the only thing that matters during gameplay. We can't have cosmetics with large paint regions obstructing team-colored parts of the model, and we can't have cosmetics adding identifiable features from other classes onto other mercenaries. Here, let me show you how destructive the cosmetics that ignore this point specifically can be. Remember the colored blocks exercise? Would you like to try that once again? Excellent! The only difference is going to be a couple cosmetics, paints, and skins. Now, you might say, hey Fiat, this here is a gay pride flag. No. It uses hues color-picked from the original image. At least, try to guess which team this mark is from. Don't be surprised, but this is a red pyro, and this loadout is 100% possible in-game. Yeah, that's a problem. Not only are we receiving items that remove or change a merc's color palette drastically, are simply ugly or weird, or both, but also ones that have awfully humongous paint regions. But now, time to focus on the cause of this whole decline in quality of TF2 cosmetics. And of course, it's about money. Every community has a bunch of bad apples. Same is with the TF2 workshop. Now imagine these rotted or worm-infested fruits who don't care about giving back to the tree that gave them life, or adding to its beauty, but, and I'm done with the fruit allegory, about getting the share of the money from cases, forming a group which would later transform into a coalition, forcing every workshopper wanting even the slimmest chance of their item getting added into the game to abide by their rules specifically. Unfortunately, you do not have to imagine. That group already exists, and it's called the Emporium. The Emporium was originally a community started on Facepunch that focused on sharing workshop submissions and giving constructive criticism. Later, moving to Discord and closing itself more from the rest of TF2's community. Emporium's members hold an astounding majority of revenue from seasonal updates. The community share of it, of course. Many figures in the TF2 space have openly called the Emporium a monopoly, and I do not think it is that big of a stretch. Actually, it is not a stretch at all. The Emporium is by definition a monopoly. Now, why is that a problem, you might ask? The TF2 workshop is supposed to be a place for all people to have a chance at getting their items accepted into the game. But when in some updates, up to 94% of items accepted were associated with the Emporium, which is an enclosed community that is very skeptic when accepting new members, we clearly have a problem. By having the same people getting their submissions accepted over and over, not only are we losing on more talented artists' work being recognized, but the game also suffers from repetition, because there is a limited number of things a single person can come up with. But that's not all. Because the Emporium consists of a very small number of often ego-filled creators that hold so much agency in what gets added, after some time when they realize that they don't have to try that hard anymore because their submissions will be added anyway, the standards have only lowered.
I wonder if you'll always to me.
Overall, to put it simply, the Emporium went from an open forum to post and get feedback on your workshop submissions to a virtual oligarchy full of egotistical people spreading hate on the internet and getting paid for it. I'm sorry for getting heated this whole chapter. I realized I don't sound that good when I'm angry, so let's finish this calmly. So, what can be done to combat this degradation of TF2's style? Well, this time it will be simpler. Vote for independent workshoppers that create actual meaningful submissions. That's all. Seriously. We're getting shit because we're voting for shit. I don't think I need to make a real introduction to this part. There is a 99% chance that you watching this are a TF2 player, and I'm sure that you know what I'll be talking about in this chapter. Valve's neglect is the most damaging thing to this game's future and legacy. 7 years of the bot crisis, unbalanced items, promises that were never kept. Yet, the community still believes, and the belief of Valve's return is only strengthened over a year ago, when the MVM update was announced to release by the end of the year at best, and by the end of the first quarter of 2026 at worst. By the time of this recording, it's July, and the update is nowhere in sight. I would love for Valve to prove me wrong, but this delay isn't because they decided to add more to the update. The thought that Valve cares about anything more than this game's revenue is no basis at all. It's going to be a disappointment, no matter if you get the free maps and Australian shotgun or not. What this game needs is for Valve to step in, bring back quick play or at least rework Casual's matchmaker and fix its shortcomings. Be more present in the moderation of cosmetics, and much more. But that won't happen. Not unless the players do something. And I don't mean add a useless hashtag to your Steam username. This video's name isn't how Valve can fix TF2. If you want Valve to listen, stop paying for their noise cancelling headphones. Stop opening cases. Stop buying tons. Stop buying on the Steam market. They're making millions, and they will never care about this. Not until... If you're only to remember one sentence I've said in this whole overly long video, it should be this one. That's all. Thank you for watching.